Well, welcome. I'm Kevin, and this is a Talk from the Barn series, and we have Phil Gabor here today, and he is my farrier. And so for the last couple years, I've had horses of my own, and trying to figure out all the stuff we have to do to appropriately care for horses. He's really helped me pretty immensely in understanding about the horse and their feet and what we need to do with it. So Phil, I have a question for you first. Like, why would you become a farrier?
Well, yeah, you got to have an absolute love for these animals, and if you do, this is a wonderful profession and a way to put your passion and earn a living all into one. Yeah. And that's truly, like I said, people don't do this just because they do it because they love working around these animals and being around horses. And if you like working with your hands and being a little creative and a little artistic, this is definitely the job for you.
So let's talk about just the basics of hoof care. What do people know? You probably get a million questions. What would you like all your newbies to watch and see?
Well, they need to understand that a hoof is an extension. It's almost like a fingernail, but their hoof is not completely weight bearing. Even though you'd think it is, it really isn't. Okay, so the outer rim, when you start on the outer part that you could actually see when they're standing there, that's called the hoof wall. The hoof wall is the only part of their giant foot that is actually weight bearing. Wow. Okay, and the rest of it is more like a shock absorber. As the animal steps, it expands microscopically, and then it recontracts and steps, and it's constantly moving in and out. But when you look at how it's constructed and you look at the anatomy of the hoof by itself and nothing else, we're really concerned about that weight-bearing portion of their hoof.
Yeah. So early on, I heard somebody talk about a horse having 5 hearts, as actual heart, but then he talked about like the heart of the foot and the blood flow.
Absolutely.
Can you explain a little bit what happens with that?
So as you get further down into the hoof, when the blood is pumped in, there's no muscles in their lower extremities. Okay, so the blood is actually flowing through just veins and capillaries and all kinds of other little tiny vessels, but there are some things that do absorb blood and move it around within their foot. You also have a portion underneath which looks like a little tiny triangle. It's in the dead center of their foot. The frog, it is a blood vessel that actually fills with blood. It's a shock absorber. It helps move blood through their hoof and then actually back towards the heart. And of course we have 4 legs, so therefore we have 4 frogs and other parts to the hoof.
Yeah. So it's about the blood flow. I think I was going to ask you. Luke got a really bad foot infection just after I first before I started working with you. I don't know, but is that dangerous then? If he has an infection in there, can that put that infection back up to the heart?
Well, it does not. But infections in the hoof lead to very, very specific problems with the hoof. Okay, and you can end up with things like founder, laminitis. You get also thrush, which is a common term you heard with babies. They get thrush in the foot also. So these, that's just like the tip of the iceberg, but there's a lot of different things that can affect the lifespan of your animal, how healthy your animal is. Things that also that if they are not caught or treated properly, it could actually even mean to the point where your animal can no longer be with us.
Yeah. So you do hear those terms, founder and laminitis. Is it the same thing? What's the difference between, or is it the same thing?
No, it's not. It's not the same thing. So founder is a general. It's a term. Usually when animals founder, it's from eating their body can't process the food properly that they're eating. It's very rich food. Usually sugar is the issue. Okay, and founder is something that happens in the hoof, and then after founder you end up with a disease called laminitis, where it attacks the laminae, and the laminae are the connective tissue that microscopically hold the coffin bone, which is the last bone in their foot, in place. So as the laminae start to die, the coffin bone and the connective tissue start loosening from the coffin bone, and the coffin bone starts to rotate. If you catch it very early, you should have no problems. If it goes untreated and it does go a lot further into progression of the disease, your animal could be very well lame for the rest of its life, and even to the point where you would actually have to have this animal put down.
Yeah. So farriers average come out about maybe every 6 weeks or so. Would that be enough time to would you see the signs that it's coming on, and then what would we look for?
Well, okay, so if you, just like a dog, your horse does have a white line. Every hoof has it. Okay, some of them are more prominent, and once you know for what you're looking for, a trained person could very easily pick it out. But I actually want to make the point that just because you have a horse does not mean your horse needs shoes, but it does need regular maintenance on their hoofs. Okay, and that regular maintenance of having a professional farrier coming out a minimum of every 6 weeks. Okay. They are not only just trimming their hoofs and cutting back growth, and they're also looking for signs of laminitis. They're looking for signs of bruising, signs of other issues that might cause problems down the road.
Yeah. Okay. So I've had people say, why is this necessary? You see Mustangs that are out there in the wild, out there, and they don't have any farriers messing with them. So how would you answer that to people?
It's actually very simple. Those animals are not asked to do anything. Those animals, first of all, they live in the wild. Maybe the lifespan of that animal is maybe 8, maybe 9 years on a good year. Okay, that's about the lifespan of a horse in the wild. If you get one that's really much older than that, you're actually very lucky. Okay, in domesticated horses, we end up with animals that are living in some cases 30, 32 years, 33 years. It's not unheard of.
Yeah.
Okay, but because of that, and because we're on their back and we're riding them, and we are asking them to do things, their feet need regular maintenance. Also, there's an issue with animals that are kept in stalls, or even sometimes in small paddocks or pastures where they're wet and moisture, where it's very damp, has a lot of moisture. You could actually end up with animals that are kept in stalls, and because they're standing in their own feces and their own waste products, and it's not being cleaned out on a regular basis, that can cause a lot of different types of diseases. So you have to have somebody that comes in, and picking it just, if you hit it with a hoof pick, you're getting the mud out. You're not actually taking off old growth of like a top layer of skin. You're not taking that old growth off to allow good, healthy growth to come up from the bottom and grow back out. Okay. All right, and that's why this has to be done, because the second we ask our animals to pull something, the second we ask our animals to put us on our back, we're going to ride them out. We're going to ride them around. We have to now maintain them, because it is in the wild that's not happening. They're not living as long, and they're also not living in a stall or in a paddock. They're moving around, and they're
moving a lot. Right.
Yes,
so it's a natural wear part, but it's on natural surfaces. There are some rocks and stuff, but mostly they're on grass, pasture type stuff. Or if they're down in Carolinas on the beach, they're on sand. They're here they're like in stalls, standing or running or on concrete or different things if they're walking on trail. So it is a little different.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. I think a big question I had is, how often do you need to come out, especially since my horses don't have shoes, and then also I found there's a difference between summer and winter growth. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So we'll talk about regular trimming appointments with your farrier wherever you live. Okay. On average, and these are averages, these are not the set in stone rules, but on average you can do spring, summer, and fall, okay, that's all lumped into one category. You should be on a 6 to 7 week schedule for regular trimming on your animals. Okay, that means that somebody's coming out, they're taking growth off, they're cutting back the frog properly, they are looking for signs of disease, they are filing and shaping and trying to keep a very healthy hoof or a nail growing at all times.
And that would be true whether you have a shoot or not.
Whether they're shot or not. Okay, shot is actually the technical term.
Okay.
Is actually the technical term for a horse with shoes.
Okay.
But whether or not they're shod, it doesn't make a difference. What you are looking for is somebody to come out regular, and it has to be done on on a 6 to 7 week basis.
Okay.
When we get into winter months, and that's usually right around Thanksgiving, and it runs from Thanksgiving to probably maybe April 1st, somewhere in there. Once you get to that point, they grow a lot slower. They have other needs than growing a good healthy hoof. They have to put on winter coats and get through the harder months where there's less food available and that sort of thing. So in the winter months, their hoofs actually, you probably go anywhere between 9 to 10 weeks between trimmings, on average. Some horses grow a little bit faster, some grow a little bit slower, but you should have somebody coming out at least 2 or 3 times over the course of the winter months. But once you're into the spring, summer, and fall, you need somebody out on a regular basis because the hoof is growing very, very fast, and the overgrowth and things that are happening on the bottom of the foot, okay, need to be maintained on a proper, regular basis.
Okay. The other question I had is how often to pick the horse's feet, and I know it depends on whether you're riding and some of the other stuff as well. I haven't picked my horses for a couple days because I wanted to let you, when you're here, we'll show it, give people a demonstration of how to do that in a little bit. But how often do you say to do that, and what would be the things you look at?
It's a little bit more where you're located in the country. Some areas are more rocky, some are more mud, some are more sand, some are more silt. You got to kind of look. But I would say on average, look, we're in northern Illinois. A couple, maybe once or twice a week, you should be good. So if you're out, if you're out messing with your animals, pick them, every time you're around them. It's just a good rule of thumb. But if you're not, at least once or twice a week, they should be at least picked out.
Yeah.
The other thing is in the wintertime for us, we get a lot of clumping with ice and things like that. That ice does need to come out. We need to constantly keep picking ice balls and snow because they're not supposed to. It's not supposed to be stuck in there. We need to make sure it comes out on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I noticed here, even that and the mud or whatever, they don't a lot of times have a chance to really run there where it falls out. They're just kind of standing around, and that's what was interesting to me. I figured that they would generate enough heat that when they came in the stalls, it would just melt off.
It doesn't.
So
it actually gets harder and clumps up.
Yeah.
And they end up walking on it, and they could actually go lame from the ice being compacted.
Yeah, because the ice then expands. The snow, and it gets built and. So yeah, that's something I didn't realize when I first started.
Guys are sitting together. Guys are sitting together.